Hi everybody, this is Brian David Marshall coming to you from the Tournament Center here at Pro Tour San Juan in Puerto Rico. Normally we have a screen up here telling you who we're here with, but let's face it, you know who this guy is.
People should know who I am.
True or false, you don't carry identification anymore?
Not anymore.
Much like Sue Sylvester, you should know who he is. All right, so Zvi Mowshowitz, for the two or three of you who don't know, is a Hall of Fame Magic player. He's one of the great deck designers. He's excelled in block constructed, which is the format for the constructed portions of this event. And he brought a pretty interesting brew to this tournament. It's a mono green deck called Beastmaster. Bears some resemblance to the Eldrazi green decks you may know from yore. But Zvi, why don't you talk to us a little bit about what your inspiration was for this deck and why you decided to build it for this format?
Well, as I talked about when I built Mythic, I like to start with the mana when I approach a format, especially block. I want to see what the building blocks are. I try to build monocolor decks. I like to see what's out there. I try to do powerful things as fast as possible. And I love mana acceleration, my favorite thing in the world. So, I saw Arbor Elf as the format's Llanowar Elves, and I saw Joraga Treespeaker as another very good mana accelerator. And we all know about Lotus Cobra. So I thought to myself, if I'm going to play Arbor Elf and Joraga Treespeaker, what's going on in my deck? I know I have a lot of green mana. I know I need a lot of forests.
All right, let me interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
So, not knowing what the powerful framework is, you're just like, I know I want this fast mana.
Yes.
And I want to build something around that.
Yes.
Explain that reasoning. That's really interesting to me. Because I think most people start with the end goal of their deck and then try to figure it out backwards.
Right, because to me, when I'm approaching a format, I want to know what tools do I have available, what color, how many colors can I choose from, what bases do I need. I worry about what I'm going to do with it later because I want to figure out what works with the mana that I have. I find that works much better. When people say, here are cards I want to cast, how do I make the mana work? The mana tends to be very awkward. And also the mana is often trying to tell you something. In this case, the mana was trying to tell me, I have a bunch of green creatures lying around and I have a bunch of green mana, what do I want to do with that? I also tried to build various decks that use this to accelerate into Summoning Trap because again, I had a bunch of creatures lying around and Jace and Oracle or other similar things, found those decks were too squishy, they were getting beaten by red, tried another approach. So basically, I knew about this, Joraga Treespeaker, Arbor Elf, Lotus Cobra. So I said to myself, what do I do with this? Well, I have a bunch of creatures lying around, and I got a bunch of mana. I remember Eldrazi Monument, and I'd been looking at Beastmaster Ascension for a while, wondering about that card.
Yeah, a lot of people have wondered about this card, but not a lot of people have pulled the trigger on it.
Right, because you see that last line, and you say, okay, if I attack 7 times, all my creatures get +5/+5, which is damn near I win the game if you've got the creatures attacking in the first place. So I now know that I have multiple Crusades available to me. I have Monument and I have Ascension.
So in this version, you have four Monument and 3 Ascensions.
Yes. I had 4 and 4 in the initial builds. After a while, we discovered we were clogging on them. We cut to 3 to 3. When we realized more about exactly how the matchups worked and what we were up against, we were willing to risk clogging on Monuments to get the 7th into the main deck. We always had access to all 8. The 4th Beastmaster is sitting over there in the sideboard. Because in certain matchups you want Beastmaster, but not Monument. Some matchups you want Monument, but not Beastmaster. And some formats you want various mixes of both. So you make sure you have access to all 8. Now that I knew that I wanted to do Monument and I wanted to try Beastmaster's Ascension, I thought, okay, how do I generate a bunch of tokens? Look for all the cards in the set very quickly because there aren't that many of them. It's block. And you see Nest Invader, Kozilek's Predator, Wolfbriar Elemental as pretty much gimmies. And so I put those in. And I love Nest Invader. It's a 2-drop. It comes out at a reasonable point. You get a free guy, potentially a free mana. It doesn't cost you anything. It complements Lotus Cobra. So again, like we have the 16 sequence, cheap, that just gets you there and still attacks. So you're still going somewhere. Predator turned out to be a superstar almost immediately. We love it. And then Wolfbriar is basically, I have a ton of mana. Every mana I have now turns into a 2/2 creature. So every mana I have makes me happy. It's good. And then the last card we had at the time, I don't remember what the initial card was, but it quickly became Bestial Menace, which is not currently in the deck because eventually someone pointed out that Vengevine is broken. And we happen to have all these creatures lying around. And so we put in Vengevine, which I didn't initially want because it's only 1 creature and I wanted more than 1 creature, but we realized no, first of all, it is more than 1 creature because it comes back. Second of all, it's ridiculous. Nobody can actually deal with it when you've got so many creatures. I mean, look at this deck. There's 7 cards that aren't creatures or lands. These Vengevines just come back. They will torture you for all eternity. And the more you play with it, the more you understand what it can do, the more powerful you realize it is. The initial build also had Orin Reese and a bunch of Dread Statuaries and was suffering from that because the mana was being slowed down for no apparent reason. So once we cut into Vengevine and then fixed the mana, the deck was really solid. This was the fourth Beastmaster Ascension for a while, but otherwise...
So the lone River Boa over here?
Yeah, the lone River Boa. So the problem was that we couldn't fix the red matchup for a while because we didn't find River Boa. And River Boa gives us a 2-drop that actually fights, that they actually cannot deal with properly if you save mana. So that lets you develop quickly without just getting all your creatures squished. And for a while we had 2 of them because we only had 3 monuments. We added the 4th monument back really late. And so we decided to go to 1 River Boa main. It's also really strong against white blue because it island walked and it doesn't die to Day of Judgment.
Right.
And that combination is really annoying for the planeswalkers and just for them in general. And for a while we had access to 4. The reason we cut it down was because we wanted to fit Naturalize into the sideboard, and we realized that in every matchup where we wanted 4 River Boas, we never were cutting a card we were unhappy with. We were always cutting a card that we were happy with, just not quite as happy as would be a River Boa. We wanted to make sure we had Naturalize, because in the mirror, it's basically, this is theory, because we didn't test it, but it's first past the post, you trigger an Ascension, you trigger a Monument, Naturalize at instant speed, knocks it out, and the combat step is not going to go well for you when that happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
So walk me through like a sequence of turns for this deck.
Okay. A typical sequence would be start off with a forest, play an Arbor Elf.
Okay. So Forest Elf.
Sure, Forest Elf. So then you untap, and say you play another forest, not to do anything crazy. And let's say that we play a Joraga Treespeaker, and we level it up on turn 2.
Right, so you play it, you untap a forest.
Right.
All right, now we have a level Treespeaker.
Yeah, I've never actually physically untapped a forest. I have just tapped it, netted a mana into my mana pool, and nobody's ever said a word. Still don't. So then next turn, say we pull out another forest. No reason to bother with fetch lands at this point. And then maybe we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would like a bunch of tokens. 2 tokens. And then next turn, let's say we play a forest, and we're like, attack, get 5 counters on it because something died. Next turn, they're dead. That kind of thing happens a lot. Turn 4s basically are when you get the Ascension online in time for turn 4, which just requires a slightly better version of this. Like you play a Lotus Cobra and a fetch land, the Lotus Cobra happens to be in play, that's a 7th creature, he's dead. It does it by itself. So that's the type of thing you're looking to do. But there are also a bunch of draws where you're basically guarding against bad things happening. You do things like lead with Vengevine.
Right. And people seem really taken aback by how fast this deck is. I mean, looking at it, again, a lot of the creatures that make Beastmaster Ascension a Monument really good are hidden, right? They're hidden in the text of the Wolfbriar Elemental, hidden in the text
right, you have all these extra creatures. People don't understand that on turn 4, there's actually a substantial probability they are dead.
Right. And you even have an extra creature in your lands here in the Khalni Garden.
Exactly. Like turn 1 Khalni Garden is fine. It's another example of why turn 1's so good for us. They just played a tap land that gave them 1 life. I created a guy who's going to tick my tick, 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 boom.
Didn't you have you had a sequence early in the Swiss rounds where it's kind of an instance of this plant's so crazy it just might work?
Yes. So on turn 4, I get Beastmaster Ascension down against red, blue, green. I dump most of my hand and attack for 5 counters. He untaps and chain reactions and sweeps the entire board because I can't sacrifice enough tokens to actually keep anything alive. I untap, I draw, and I play Khalni Garden. I have 5 counters on it. He kills the token, I believe, and then I play another Khalni Garden off the top. And then the garden attacks for the 6th counter, and the garden attacks for the 7th counter, and he dies.
To a 5/6 plant.
To a 5/6 plant, yes.
Talk us through your sideboard a little bit.
All right. Sideboard is pretty straightforward. The ins and outs aren't, but the sideboard is. Ascension is for when Ascension is the right card, or you just want as many Crusades as you can get. Leatherback Baloth is for red decks, because it has 5 toughness and only costs 3 mana. That's why it's one of the main reasons why you only have 1 Statuary in the deck. Preserver is for Eldrazi. It kicks Eldrazi's ass. Olive Dust is the only way you actually lose to Eldrazi decks. Olive Dust are potentially Day of Judgment if they're playing white, but a lot of the white decks don't even have Day of Judgment in the first place. And so Preserver comes down the turn before they Olive Dust. Now what are they going to do? Gigantiform is basically more reach in any form where you need more reach, or where either Ascension or Monument is bad, but you still want more reach. The Forest is because against red, you are losing your men. And so you need more mana to make sure you get more men and to make sure that Leatherback Baloth actually gets cast on turn 3. Naturalize is a mirror card. It's also potentially for Boros, depending on how heavily they are into equipment. And River Boa is for white-blue and decks that are burning things because they all destroy and they don't ever prevent regeneration.
Excellent. Well, there you have it. That's Beastmaster by Zvi Mowshowitz. The Team Mythic guys are all playing it. People seem to be doing really well. You're in a great position to make a run at the top 8 here.
Yeah.
You know, this might be a deck you want to look at as we approach the new standard format, as a rotation coming. Maybe you want to take some components from this block constructed deck, transport it over to standard, give it a try.
I consider the current build in block to be much stronger than the old build in standard was. Like as a deck, I would play these 75 over those 75 trivially. And you go into standard. The first thing you do is you look at these 8. You say, I don't have to stop at 8, and I can do a lot better.
So there you go. Boot up Mitko. You know, build a green deck, give it a try. Tell them Zvi sent you. For Zvi Mowshowitz, this is Brian David Marshall from the Tournament Center.